Hello everyone, I'm here with Tech Motorsports, and it is time to review my 7000 SLX Quickjack system that I bought pretty much a year and a half ago. There are 4 available weight capacity models. There's a 3500, the 5000, the 6000, and the 7000. As I stated, I'll be reviewing the 7000 SLX because that's the one that I currently have. Now, when I was looking to utilize a lift in this bay right here, I was thinking of movability. I wanted to make sure I was able to move them out of the way, and it wouldn't get in the way because sometimes I don't need a lift on this side. As I started going into the whole looking at what was available, this one was one of them, and then I liked the Max Jack as well. As I kept looking and digging, and I realized, wait a minute, if I go with the Quickjacks that I have here, I can take these to the racetrack with me. So that's where I decided, okay, this is what I'm going to end up using. So I went ahead and purchased the item. So that was one of the reasons why I went with the Quickjacks. And yeah, what I'm going to end up doing is we're going to go through some pros and cons on the system itself. But before we jump onto that, let's look at some of the components that come with the kit. In the kit, you will receive 4 of these, which I call small rubber blocks. And then you'll receive 4 of these, which are what I consider the large rubber blocks. There are additional options if you want to get some that are bigger and adjustable for trucks that you can put on there, but I use this mainly more for cars, so I didn't pick that option. Now, another thing you end up getting is in the kit is these grab handles. So these grab handles will go right here. Once you raise it up, you put them underneath there, and it'll pinch it underneath where the scissors are at, and then you could slide it mainly more out than in, but it does assist. I do not use these. I just slide them on each end. I just don't even worry about it. So the other thing, the pump itself, it's a 110 volt pump. The hoses, you get 2 hoses. On each hose, it's the same connector, so you don't have to worry about making sure that this side goes there. They're both the same, so that was very nice and very easy to do. And also with the Quickjacks, when you do raise it up, you do have 2 locking points. You have one halfway, and then you have one all the way to the top. And the other thing is these do have wheels to roll around. And they are small little rubber wheels, and I tell you what, I am, in all honesty, shocked that they've held up this far, and I hope I just didn't jinx myself. But they have been holding up very well. I looked at those when I first got them. I'm like, man, these things are not gonna last. Knock on wood. Okay, now that I jinxed myself on those wheels, yeah, let's get into sliding this one underneath the car and getting it raised up. I do want to say that I already have the other side taken care of and installed. I do want to add one quick thing is before moving this up, I know this has happened to me before in the past, is you got to make sure that these are in the track. And the reason why I say that it can barely get off on the edge, and it will be riding on part of it, and it could jam up. So just make sure that those are in the track. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and start sliding in. I'm putting my my rubber blocks in place. I use a small one up front, and I use a big one in the back. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna raise it all the way to the top. So yep. Okay, so raise it all the way to the top, and to get those locks in place, you have to lower it down a little bit, and you would end up hearing them kind of click in place. But you also want to do what I end up doing is I go through and I kick them on both sides to make sure they are locked. I have had it to where I had to rebleed the system one time, and the one side wasn't going up as far, and it didn't lock. So just a little bit tidbit information, but for the most part, yeah, they all lock into place, and And yeah, so now it's going to be time to doing a little bit of the pros and cons. So let's get into that. All right, so for the pros on the Quickjacks. Now, the Quickjacks will raise the vehicle up higher than a standard jack. And what I mean by a standard jack, this jack. Oh, there we go. That jack. So that right there, by looking at it, it's about a 3 inches lower than what the Quickjacks would end up being. Now, if the car wasn't super low-ish, I could probably put a thicker block and get it a tad bit up. But no matter what, I'm looking about a 3-inch difference between a standard jack stand over the Quickjacks. Now, there are also big ones, like I've bought jack stands for my dually. Those are 6-ton jack stands, and those go up pretty tall. And there you go. Now, of course, yeah, this thing rules height-wise. But you also got to be in mind that if you have it too tall or too high, you're not going to be able to reach some of the stuff underneath when you're down underneath on the creeper. Now, the other thing is, by doing this, your jack is going to be limited to how high it can jack something up. So you're going to have to end up using blocks like 4x4s and stuff like that to be able to get this car or to get a vehicle up to this high. Trust me, I've done it. I did an E30, and there was a lot of jacking to get it up on the jack stands, and there was a lot of jacking to get it off the jack stands. So that's just one key thing. Now, that was a good point, and then the reason why I was looking at the height was for the next pro. And the pro number 2 for the Quickjacks is that I am able to remove the transmission, and I'm trying to catch it in the frame, is using my transmission jack for the floor. Now, that's one thing I was kind of worried about when I used the Quickjacks, and also depends on the transmission. Normally I've installed manual ones or have removed manual ones. I can keep the transmission on the transmission jack itself without having to take it off the jack stand. Before, I would have to take it off the jack stand and to get the tranny out. And yeah, I've already have installed, removed and installed 4 transmissions with the Quickjacks, and not one issue. It's great, and that was probably one of the biggest things that really I was hoping I would be able to do with this Quickjack system. So it's a plus on that one. Now, the other thing is too that it is storage availability. Now, to store these things takes very little room, and here's a quick snapshot where I keep mine in my garage. Takes up very little room, and I don't have the hangers that you could hang them on. That is an option if you want to purchase them. I just have them leaning on the wall, and just takes up very little room, which is great. And then the other thing, the pro number 4, is I get to take these things to the track, and I tell you what, man, it has helped a lot on the track. I think that is like one of the it has become one of the main reasons why I'm so glad that I got these. I have used these during my races and my track days more than I have here at my shop. These things have been great on the track, and if there's anybody that is wondering if this is going to work great, and it is, to be honest with you, it works great at the track. I do dig it. There is a couple other things I will talk on the con side of it all, but we'll get to that here in a few minutes. But using these at the track was awesome. So now let's jump on to the cons. Con number 1. They're heavier than what they were stated. Now, by what I mean by that was, when I was looking at these They made it seem like, oh, these are light, very easy to move around. They are for the most part, but I'm pretty sure I may have read or watched something that was the 3,500 pound one, because this is the 7,000 pound one, like I stated, and she's heavy. I mean, it's still, to be able to pick it up and like put it in the corner, it's not as easy as they made it seem. So that's one of the things. Again, the wheels do help out. Con number 2, which is, I did not notice this until after a while of me using them. But one day I was sitting there underneath and I'm like, you know, this sucks. And what I mean by that is they're right there. So you have to enter and exit the front of the car or the rear of the car. So if you're working in the center, you got to go this way or that way. Or let's say, for example, you're working all your tools up front because you're working to remove the transmission, which has happened. And I'm sitting over here and I'm on my creeper, which makes it so much more easier. I have to go all the way to the back to exit. Now, imagine if you didn't have a creeper, you had to sit there and slide on your back, which is a pain. Now, to help out with that, if I remove the wheels, which makes it a less travel to be able to get out, but still, that is one of the, I think the biggest downfall to it all. But overall, still a great product. Now, the blocks, the jacking blocks, I kind of learned the hard way. Nothing went bad, but I learned the hard way is you got to make sure that the blocks, they're not on the vehicles that have the ridge on them, because it looks like it could split it in half. So if you do have that, you want to make sure you put like a piece of wood or something like a 2x4 underneath it, or maybe not use those, or use a 2x4 or a 4x4. And on the car in particular here, the car has pucks on them, so there's more of a surface that is going on the block. So that is something that I had an SQ5 on there, and I jacked it up and it was on a ridge, and I'm just sitting there looking, and I went underneath and I looked and I could just see it was just caved in, and I kid you not, brown moment, it almost looked like it wanted to split it. So lower the vehicle down, put blocks underneath, and or blocks, put the 2x4 on top of the block, and the 2x4, you know, was what was making contact on the ridge. So yeah, so now what I'm going to end up doing, so that is the cons. Not bad, 3 cons, which I don't know, you could beg to differ on the last one I just stated, but still, it's just something you have to be mindful when you start lifting something that's a little heavy. Now, I went with a 7,000 pound lift because I wanted to make sure I could use it for multiple cars. Now, I mean, 96% of the vehicles have been cars, so no big issues on that. I've used it on one vehicle, which is the SQ5, like I stated, but overall, yeah. So now what I'm going to end up doing, I'm going to lower the vehicle down and go from there. So for lowering the vehicle, you got to raise it up, and then you got to just go to each side and just lift up on them. And by doing that, this locking mechanism right here folds and sits on the lock itself, and then they could then it'll slide down on both sides. So I got to do the other side. Well, she's all lowered now, and yeah, I do have one small little issue with the system right now. Is I do have one of the fittings on the pump leaking fluid. I've had it leaking for the last 2 times I used it, and I noticed this time around that the puddle is a little bit bigger, so I do have to replace that fitting. I did order some a couple months ago when I first encountered the leak. Unfortunately, threads on differently on the housing than the one that I've got, so I have to get 2 different ones. So yeah, the speed itself to raise and lower the car, it's very acceptable, to be honest with you, in comparison to how it lowers this car, and my single post lift lowers that car. Oh my god, that single post lift just takes forever to lower a vehicle down, and oh man, it's way too long, and unfortunately I cannot adjust that one. But anyways, back to the Quickjacks. So got to take care of that leaky connector. That's pretty much been the only issue I've had with it. And yeah, now the question is, would I buy the Quickjacks again, knowing what I've known, knowing what I know, and had it for so long? And the answer to that is yes, I would. I would buy them again. They've been so helpful, and having them for the track use made it definitely worth the purchase for what I end up using it for. So now these Quickjacks are also great for somebody who works on a car on the weekends, a gearhead who loves to wrench. These are great for just normal regular maintenance, super great. And yeah, now again, I'm going to touch base on this again. So glad I got them, and I'm able to use these at the track. It really honestly helps at the track, and love them at the track. And yeah, so if there are any questions that any of you guys have on the Quickjacks themselves, please put them in the comments. I know that I did the same thing for my single post lift when I did a review on that one, and I got a lot of comments on that, and I think 2 people that we were conversing back and forth, they bought the single post lift. So so sweet, guys. Like always, guys, to help the channel out, you gotta hit the like and subscribe button, and hope to see you in the next video.